Alright guys, I just got back from seeing Shazam. That was about 30 minutes ago. All I can say is this. I'm not going to really go into spoilers since the movie isn't even out yet. It'll be out in wide release in 2 more weeks. But I will say this. There are 2 ending credits. But the mid credits scene is important because it does set up for the sequel. But the one at the very end, if you've seen the trailers, if you've seen the TV spots, if you followed up with the marketing, you've seen this scene. So it's a little extended. So they kind of did what they did with like a Wreck-It Ralph 2 where they had the scene with the bunny and the bunny exploded. Yeah, and that one, they actually had it at the end of the movie. Similar situation. There's a scene where, again, I don't really want to spoil it that much because some of you don't even watch the marketing, but all I can say is this, it's in there. The scene is in there. It's just a little extended in the final edition, but it doesn't really add much. It's a nice scene. It's a funny scene, but again, it's in the marketing. That's all I can say. So if you're thinking if the end credit scenes are worth it, I would say the mid credits is, but to me, it's very confusing since I don't know much about the Shazam, the mythology and all that stuff. So yeah, but it's interesting. But the scene at the very end, I would say kind of skip it, but that's only if you haven't seen any of the marketing. This movie's fun. It's a lot of fun. There are problems, of course, and that's the thing. If you say a DC movie has problems, they're like, oh god, it sucks or something like that. No, the thing with the DC universe for me, I'm one of the guys who actually liked most of the movies. I love Man of Steel. I love Batman v Superman. I liked Wonder Woman. I really, really loved Aquaman. I had mixed feelings of Suicide Squad. I had mixed feelings of Justice League. And that's how I am so far. So Shazam, how is it? I would say it's basically the Spider-Man of the DC extended universe. And that could be a good or bad thing depending on your perspective. And when I mean by Spider-Man, I mean the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So if you do not like that movie, you might have a problem with this one because it takes a lot of liberties from that movie, which is also good and bad. Bad as in you could say it's not really that original, but when it works, it works. For this movie, not only is Billy Batson supposed to learn about with great power comes great responsibility, but he does know that family could be anybody. And yeah, this movie focuses so much on family that it's really endearing. It's heartwarming at times. This movie is a better Fantastic Four movie than Fantastic Four. Oh my god. God damn it. Stop doing that. Oh, Jesus. So, the acting's really, really damn good. Zachary Levi, or Zachary Levy, however you pronounce his last name. I think it's Levi. Whew. He was born to play this role. When he said he was glad that he was killed as Frandle and he wanted to be this beast Shazam, it was yeah, it's great. He was born to play this role. He was excellent. Oh my god. So yes, this is a superhero version of Big, and there is a Big reference. I don't even know how many people in the theater got that, but I was laughing my ass off when that scene happened, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you people would know what reference is gonna be. So yes, there's a Big reference, and there's actually a bunch of references, but again, I can't really spoil that much. I gotta say, the marketing for this movie, they hide a lot of things. They did, which is bravo. Because, wow, that whole third act, none of that was... Well, yeah, some of the fight between Dr. Zavanna is in the trailers, but whew, they hid a lot of stuff, so I'm happy. Oh, man. So, if you really don't know about this story, it's the story of Billy Batson. He's 15 years old. He's trying to find his mother, who he thought he abandoned. So he thought he abandoned her. He's tried to find her, and he's been having some bad luck trying to find her. He tried to find her like 22 times throughout Philadelphia, and but he finally got caught, and he was being sent to this foster home. And one of the guardians there is the same guy from The Walking Dead. I think the character's name is Jerry. He's nice. I like this guy. So he's in this foster home, and in this foster home there are 5 other kids. There's Mary, who's trying to get into college. There's Freddy, who's the superhero enthusiastic kid who's a bit handicapped because I think he said he had an accident, but they didn't really specify much on that because he did say something like a joke because it's like a Game of Thrones kind of thing, but I'm pretty sure that's not it. But he is handicapped. There's Pedro, who's a fat Hispanic boy who doesn't really talk that much. There's, shoot, I'm really forgetting the Asian kid now. I forgot the name of the kid. But yeah, there's an Asian kid who's a gamer, and he likes to swear a lot. So that was fun. And he wants to kick people's asses. And then there's Darla, who's the most adorable one. And here's the thing. I know a little bit of Shazam. Well, back then it was Captain Marvel, but they had to change the name. So I do know about Billy Batson. I do know about his powers. I do know about his origin, but I don't know much beyond that. I don't know much about the villains besides Black Adam. So Dr. Sivana, I was not familiar with. So I'm not sure how much of this movie is very faithful towards that. But so far as the origin aspect, it's pretty faithful. You do see Jamon Hansu, who's in this movie, and again he dies. What's up with this guy dying in superhero movies? Well, he gave away his powers, and he had to fade away because he's old and he's not powerful enough. So yeah, again, why does he die in superhero movies? He died in Guardians of the Galaxy. He died in Aquaman. Now he dies here. I guess that's in his contract. But anyway, so Billy Batson gets these powers. He becomes Zachary Levi, and he can only do it while saying the name Shazam. And every time he says Shazam, he changes back and forth. And he does that a lot. And I'm actually happy about that. Because both actors are really good. The kid and Zachary Levi. And I must say, Zachary Levi does act like how a teenager acts, but it's kind of weird because it makes this movie feel like a 90s movie or a late 80s kind of movie, because he's doing all these shenanigans that teenagers would love to do, but they're not age appropriate. So yes, the first thing he wants to do was go to a supermarket and buy beer. Perfect. He wants to go to a gentleman's club. Perfect. And, you know, in the trailer, they said, he said that he doesn't even know how to pee in this thing. That does get brought up. And it was a funny scene, too. To me, one of the best parts is the superhero montage of him training, him trying to figure out how to use these powers and stuff. Oh, man, it's a blast. And the thing about why I would say this is a lot like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man is because of this is not just in Spider-Man, it's not just a Peter Parker story, but it shows the origins of the Green Goblin. It shows the perspective of Norman Osborn. So you keep going back and forth. It's almost like, even though it focuses more on Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker Spider-Man, but it does focus a lot on the villain. And this one does almost the same, because the movie begins by focusing on the origin of the villain. I don't want to spoil, but all I can say is that it's actually refreshing that we get to see the perspective of the villain and why he's like this. There's a couple things I don't like, and I feel like it's because they shot more footage with him, with Mark Strong's character, but they had to cut it, maybe due to time constraints. But I felt like there was a lot more with him, because it kind of felt abrupt when he wanted to become evil. I mean, you understand why he wanted to be evil, but there's a bit of a time skip. So that's why you're like, that part seemed a bit confusing, a bit jarring. But at least you understand the motivations. And it's Mark Strong. He's fun. He's great. And I like that he's basically a stereotypical villain. He's pretty much like Steppenwolf in a way. Like, oh, I want to be the most powerful thing in the universe. Blah! Except that this time he just wants to prove that magic exists. And he wants to show to the world that he's correct all along. So it's like that. Would you say that's similar to Ghostbusters in a way? He wants to prove that magic exists, and then he's incredibly evil because he wants to feel the power that he always wanted to feel. So I would say this though: Mark Strong's Dr. Sivana is not as in depth as Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. Which is a bit of a shame because I thought Willem Dafoe was great in it. The only bad thing about him was just the suit, but everything else was great. Here, he looks a lot like a bald Dr. Octopus with the jacket and the sunglasses and stuff. So, again, I'm not sure if that's what he looked like in the comics or the animated series, but if he does, okay. But so far, I'm just getting Dr. Octopus vibes. And he wants Shazam's power, and then they fight, and that's all pretty much I can say, because, again, there's a lot that the trailers are not showing, and that's refreshing. But I gotta say, there's one scene with Billy Batson later on that actually tugged at my heartstrings, and it's just well done. I gotta double check who the writer of this is. Maybe it is David F. Sandberg, but yeah, it's kind of similar in a way to Guardians of the Galaxy, where Peter Quill is afraid of losing his mom, so he ran out, and she was stricken with cancer and all that. Yeah, it felt very similar to that, and it's really well done. However, I will say this as kind of a negative, even though I'm happy that this movie had some balls to show off some outrageous shit. It's a bit too much at the end, I must admit. And, they didn't show this in the trailers, but they did show the synopsis of this in the plot synopsis and some of the news. Yes, it's not just Dr. Sivana. There are other villains. It's the 7 Deadly Sins. I don't know much of these guys in the comics. All I know is from the movie 7 and Full Metal Alchemist. And, of course, the Bible and all that stuff. But still, I don't know much about them for the Shazam comics. So, again, I don't know how faithful they are. All I can say is this. The design of them is interesting, but it's kind of dull. And my biggest problem with the design of them is that I have no idea who's who besides Gluttony. That's a problem. I don't know who's greed. I don't know who's pride, lust, envy, sloth, and gluttony. Gluttony's the only one I know because he's the fat one. That's the only thing I know. And actually, his design is kind of similar to Gluttony in Full Metal Alchemist because he does that gaping mouth thing that sucks people in. So I thought that was pretty awesome. I'm not sure if that's based on the comics or that's just a tribute to Full Metal Alchemist. I don't know. But you honestly can't really tell the difference between these guys. And not just that, they do this thing where they do talk, but they talk telepathically. So whenever they talk, all you see is their faces just frozen with their mouth like this while they're speaking, "Oh, you must kill the chosen one." But they're just frozen like this. Which is really odd. I'm okay with Julie Andrews voicing the Kraken in Aquaman because it was a giant and she doesn't really have lips, so I was okay with that. But here, I'm like, it seems kind of lazy that these guys are talking, but you don't even animate their mouths. Maybe they just don't look good with animated mouths, but yeah, that's the thing. At least in Full Metal Alchemist, I know who's who, and I don't even have to know their names to, or their personalities to know who's who of the 7 sins. Wrath is the one who's very fierce and attacks people, and Sloth is the one who's big and lazy. Gluttony is the fat one. Lust is the sexy one. Pride is kind of difficult, to be honest, because it's the little boy with the shadows. But Envy, the one who wants to be other people because his true form is disgusting. Yeah, that's the thing. These designs are not... They're just okay. They should have go all out with it. But again, I understand that Dr. Savannah is pretty much the main villain. In a way, this movie's kind of similar to Green Lantern because the seven deadly sins are kind of controlling Dr. Savannah. Like, they're just trying to use him as a host. But he still has his own thoughts. He still has his own voices and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's... But again, it kind of feels like Green Lantern in a way, which is really ironic because Mark Strong is Sinestro. Oh, man. You know what? He was the best part of Green Lantern. It's a shame that they can't continue on with him. Ah, man. So what time is it now? 10:17? So, I'm not sure. Again, I don't want to get more into Shazam without spoiling anything. Trying to think what else. The superhero montage was great. The effects are okay. If you treat it like a 80s or 90s movie, the effects are great. But yeah, some of the effects are incredibly iffy, especially when you see CGI Zachary Levi during some of the scenes. It just doesn't look real. That's weird though. Every scene where he's flying very fast, you could definitely tell it just looks like a big red blob, which kind of ruins the action scenes. And, well, I gotta say this, at least I can tell what's going on. There's some very, very fast camera motions and all that stuff, but sometimes they do use slow motion to slow things down. But even when they're fighting each other at super lightning speeds, again, you could tell what's going on, mostly because of the colors. This is a pretty bright movie. The nighttime scenes are not as dark, which I'm happy because they do use the lights of the stars in the sky and also the city, so it does look pretty at times. So yeah, the movie does not look that muted. I must say though, the beginning scene looks pretty dark, but it makes sense because of they're driving at nighttime through the woods. It makes sense. I heard there's supposed to be a reference to Don't Breathe. No, I'm sorry, that's not David F. Sandberg. Lights Out. There's supposed to be a reference to Lights Out, but I didn't see that. I saw a reference to what I believe is The Mist, because there's this giant tentacle monster thing that has a gaping mouth, and has claws and stuff. I felt like that was The Mist. I could be wrong, but but other than that, it's a lot of fun. Again, the acting's good. The visual effects are okay. But the family part of it was really touching. So I do recommend this. In terms of ranking it, that's kind of tough because I kind of like Aquaman more because it's outrageous. But in terms of pretty focused story, I would say this is right below Man of Steel. To me, though, I know some people have their problems with Man of Steel, and the thing is, this movie is fun. It's not dark. It's dark in some aspects, but not dark. It's not incredibly dramatic. It's just a family movie, and it's a Christmas movie too, which is strange because what's his name? The guy who just directed The Predator, Shane Black. I honestly thought this was a Shane Black movie at some points. I'm like, they talk so much about Christmas. It's a Christmas movie. Okay. Well, that's all I can say about Shazam. I'm gonna turn off this live stream now and gonna talk about the Us spoilers.